Good morning. I'd like to call the February Committee of Adjustment meeting to order at 9 o'clock. And I just have one little announcement. Today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and YouTube channel. By participating in the open public meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. Moved by Member Brown, second by Member Stokes. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment agenda dated February the 10th, 2025 be adopted. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none. By Member Bridgman, second by Member Stokes. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment minutes dated January 13, 2025 be adopted and approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is required that I make a few statements, then I will explain the hearing procedures. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Alan Edwards, Barb Bridgman, Ruth Ann Brown, Lisa Grogan-Green, and Sean Stokes. I can confirm we have quorum and that senior staff and planning staff are present. Public input on this February 10th agenda was invited at the following email address, planning@muskokalakes.ca. Now I will explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date the notice was circulated, and planning staff's comments. All internal and external submissions received by 8:15 a.m. today have been made available to committee members and the public. These submissions can be viewed under Section 10 of the agenda. When able, planning staff will do their best to circulate submissions that were received after 8:15 a.m. These submissions will also form part of the public record and will be available for the public on the township's government portal. The planner will identify the source of each submission and whether it is in support or opposition to the application. Should committee members wish to view any submissions during the meeting, they may request that it be projected onto the council chamber screen to view. The committee will hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information or to substantiate their proposal. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. The committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. If you are here to speak on an application electronically, please wait until after the planner presents the relevant application to raise your hand in Zoom. If you are here to speak on an application in person, when asked, please raise your hand, and when you are recognized by the chair, please approach the podium, turn on the microphone, and remain at the podium while you state your comments for recording purposes. The committee will hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent to respond to any questions or concerns raised. The committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions, have a debate on the application, and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. Please note that the effect of written and oral submissions on decisions for consent and minor variances, along with the reasons for minor variance decisions, are both required under the Planning Act, and motions are pre-populated with standard wording. However, the committee may decide to add reasons and/or effects to the standard wording after voting on a decision. Motions have also been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. It must be noted the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There is a 20-day appeal period from the date of decision. Building permits are not available until after the appeal period and if no appeals are received. Lastly, please take down the pink notice signs that were posted on your property to advertise today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ward. And the first application is B 5224, and that's Ms. DeMello.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The first application to be heard is consent application B 5224 in the name of TUKUMS. The subject lands are known municipally as 1138 Ferndale Road, Unit 11. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 31 of the agenda package. The applicants propose to sever a portion of the property and add it to an abutting property to the east. The application also proposes a right-of-way for access over an existing private road on the retained lot in the ownership of Kai TUKUMS in favor of the resultant lot in the ownership of Kai TUKUMS and Joanna TUKUMS. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 25 days in advance of this meeting, and 5 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from the district stating no objection to the application. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the township's manager of public works, stating no objection, and Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating no objection. Comments were also received from Douglas Holland, the township's fire prevention officer, stating no objection, as well as the calculated fire response time, and recommending that the Fire Smart Homeowners Manual be consulted to understand how treatments to the property influence wildfire spread. A letter of support was received with the application, signed by 4 neighboring property owners conveying support for the applications. Committee members can view the letter by navigating to section 10 of the agenda. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the standard conditions of consent. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to members of the committee and township staff. My name is Sam Soya. I'm a senior planner with Tulloch at 80 Main Street West in Huntsville, postal code P1H1W9, and I'm representing the applicant for this application. I'd like to thank township staff for their review of the application, their description and supportive recommendation. I'd just like to note that this application will allow for an improvement to the setback of a septic system leaching bed, although a building permit was issued for a replacement system about 70 feet from the shoreline. The applicant met several times with former building inspector Sandy Boss, and this better location was selected at that time. The new location will allow for a setback of 173 feet approximately. It is also the purpose of the application to replace the existing or 2 existing right-of-ways with a new right-of-way. Given that right-of-way access already exists to the property identified here as Unit 13, this is primarily a technical exercise to ensure that the reconfigured lot will gain access by way of only a single right-of-way, and that will be clear at the time of registration. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Soya. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition to this application? Other questions from the members?
Yeah, I have one question. In the recommendation, it says the confirmation be received by the town that the township satisfied resultant lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal. Any problems identified with any existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. And then I look at the second one that we haven't addressed yet, and it's got a different statement that it's looking for approval from the township septic inspector. Are we talking the same things here? And has that approval been given for this application?
We'd like to answer that.
Uh,
Yes.
I hope I made that clear, and I hope I'm understanding, and I may have missed something.
Thank you, and good morning, committee, and through you, Chair. Maybe just clarification with respect to the second one. I'm just not clear on what it is that you're referring to.
Sorry, I can tell you right now, if we go down to, I just got to find it here, I apologize. It's B 5724. And the second recommendation is confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained lot is satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal and that any problems identified with an existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. That's just different wording, and I don't know if we're talking about the same issue or not. In other words, is the township satisfied with the retained lot for the first one, and should we amend that wording or not?
Yes.
Thank you, and it's a great question. Thank you for your observation. Essentially, there are two different types of consent applications. The application that we're dealing now in the name of TUKUMS is the application to sever lands and add them to an abutting lot. The hand application is an application to grant a right-of-way, so the wording of that condition is slightly different. The condition with respect to the TUKUMS application will cover off the resultant lots. And with respect to hand, we're concerned about the retained lot, and that's why it's worded as such. Thank you.
Good, thanks very much.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Brown. Be it resolved, consent be granted for application B 5224 ML TUKUMS, providing the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, to the satisfactory registrable description deed of the severed lot, together with any required right-of-ways or easements, be submitted to the township, along with a registered copy of the reference plan. Excuse me. 2, that subsection 3 of section 50 of the Planning Act applies to any subsequent conveyance. And 3, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the resultant lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, and any problems identified with the existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you. Have a great day.
The next application is B 5724 ML and that's Ms. Beamish.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is consent application B 5724 ML in the name of Hand. The retained lot is known municipally as 1057 Robert Johnston Road, Unit 6. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 51 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to create a right-of-way over part of an existing private road in favor of an abutting property. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 26 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and planning staff from the District of Muskoka, stating no objection to the application. Comments were received from Doug Holland, the township's fire prevention officer, stating no objection to the application and providing fire response times. Comments were also received from Tim Sopko, the township's manager of operational services, stating that the proposed access is via a private road. These roads are not required to be constructed or maintained in accordance with township road standards. The operational services department does not review this type of access, and road access for emergency services may be limited and/or unavailable via the proposed access. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved, subject to the standard conditions of consent. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here, the agent here? No.
Someone is here. Thank you, Chair Edwards. My name is Ryan Allen. I'm representing Peter and Susan Hand with their consent application today, 104 Kimberly Avenue, Bracebridge, P1L 1Z8. Thank you, Ms. Beamish, for providing an overview, including a picture of the existing traveled road and the existing right-of-way. The committee may remember the neighboring property had a recent approval for a lot addition as well as a grant of right-of-way over an existing traveled road. This application is located on the next lot in line and will grant a right-of-way over unit number 8 on unit number 6, which is the last sequence of rights-of-ways that are required over the existing road. Be happy to answer any questions you have, and we'd hope that you would recommend the application as recommended by staff this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay, questions from the members? No? Moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Brown. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 5724 ML Hand, providing the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, that a satisfactory registrable description deed of the separate lot right-of-way, together with any required right-of-way or easements, be submitted to the township, along with the registered plan, copy of the reference plan. And 2, the confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained lot is satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, that any problems identified with any existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And the next application is A 8324, and that is LEIGH, and that is Ms. Beamish.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 8324 in the name of LEIGH. The subject lands are known municipally as 1171 Hardy Lake Road, Unit 10. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 75 of the agenda package. The applicants propose to construct a new 2-story dwelling, dock, and a 1-story boathouse with a rooftop sundeck. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 26 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Manager of Public Works, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, stating no objection. Comments were also received from Douglas Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, stating no objection, as well as the calculated fire response time, and recommending that the Fire Smart Homeowners Manual be consulted to understand how treatments to the property influence wildfire spread. A letter of support was also received from Mary Jane Medic, the owner of the westerly abutting property, 1252 East Bay Road, Unit 1, stating no objection to the application. Committee members can view this letter by navigating to Section 10 of the agenda package. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the following condition: that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title along with securities for the retention of existing vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wish to speak on this?
Yes, hello again, Chair Edwards. My name is Ryan Allen. I'm professional planner, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L 1Z8, 104 Kimberly Avenue. I'm representing Rebecca Lee and her spouse, Chris Tambakis, with their variance application today. Excuse me. I do have a brief presentation that I would like to share, if that could be queued up. The drawing that was provided is a little bit noisy, so I hope to cut through some of that noise. The application, as was explained, is located on 1171, unit number 10. Next slide, please. The proposed development involves the removal of an existing dwelling, boathouse, and dock, and the construction of a new dwelling, boathouse, and dock. And you can see the elevations of the proposed structures below. Next slide, please. As was summarized, there's a number of variances that are proposed, partly because the existing development, including the dock and the boathouse, are legal non-complying structures. Improvements are being made, but relief is still required for some of those aspects of the development. Next slide, please. I'm trying to be a little more clear on the site plan. You'll see the existing boathouse and the existing surrounding dock. There's an encroaching dock over the side lot line. There's a small existing dock proposed to be removed. The existing dwelling and all of the surrounding decks are also proposed to be removed, and the new dwelling and decks will be pulled back from the shoreline. The new boathouse will also be rotated on its current axis and pulled away from that lot line location. So if we move to the next slide, please, this shows the proposed site plan. And you'll see the dock encroachment is removed and increased setback is provided. There's also increased setback provided for the boathouse. And the boathouse design is being changed. The rooftop is being split 50-50, with the one side being pitched roof and the other side being flat rooftop deck, with the rooftop deck portion being the farthest setback from the neighbors. The existing width of the dock is to be reduced by 35.8 feet, including the removal of a small dock along another portion of the shoreline. The new dwelling and the deck will be fully compliant with the 50-foot setback. The ask on the table for the dwelling is increased building coverage. All aspects of that dwelling comply otherwise. Next slide, please. In terms of improvements being made to the property, there's front yard setbacks that are increasing for the dwelling and deck that I mentioned to compliance. The dock encroachment will be removed over the side lot line. There's a considerable reduction in the dock width that's proposed. The boathouse setback is to be increased by 5 feet, and then further a fairly substantial increase for the setback of the rooftop deck. The building area and deck area located within 50 feet of the shoreline will be reduced, and opportunities exist to enhance the shoreline buffer. Happy to answer any questions, and we would ask that the committee approve the application as recommended by committee today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition? No? Question from the members? Yes.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. It's just a comment. As Mr. Allen pointed out, this is really busy, this one graphic that's got the old and the new all together. So I'm wondering, when we've got this much going on, if I could request that you do side by side at the same dimensions with the existing, and then the second one is only the changes, and I think I'd be able to read it better. It was quite challenging this time, so it is a suggestion, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, it would be nice to have the presentation that was just on the screen. And if they can come up for that for the meeting, they should be able to come up for the presentation. And that, because I'm finding this screen over here with the light from the window coming in, you can barely see it from here. Can you? Are there any other questions? Any other questions? No. Just me. And not tick on it, I don't know what's the matter. Moved by member Brown, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that minor variance application A 8324 LEIGH to demolish an existing one-story dwelling, a one-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck and docks, and to construct a new two-story dwelling, dock, and one-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a maximum lot coverage of 6,069 square feet, 11%, within 200 feet from the high water mark. 2, to permit a dock to be 77 feet in cumulative width. 3, to permit a one-story boathouse to be 52 feet in length. 4, to permit a dock to be 55 feet at their closest point from the easterly side lot line projection, and 5, to permit a one-story boathouse to be 9.5 feet at the closest point from the easterly side lot line projection, and 6, to permit a one-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck to be 28 feet at the closest point from the easterly side lot line projection. These variances are shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following conditions: that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of existing vegetation, planting to remain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And the next application is A 8724, and that's Sellers, and that is Mr. Mello.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 8724 in the name of Sellers. The subject lands are known municipally as 1085 Sagamo Boulevard. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 122 of the agenda package. The applicants propose to demolish an existing dwelling in a 2-story boathouse and docks and construct a new 2-story dwelling, dock, and new 2-story boathouse with a sleeping cabin in the upper level. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 20 days in advance of this meeting, and 3 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Manager of Public Works, stating no objection, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, stating no objection, and that the building permit process will confirm if adequate area or adequate sewage system exists on the site. Comments were also received from Douglas Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, stating no objection, as well as the calculated fire response time, and recommending that the Fire Smart Homeowners Manual be consulted to understand how treatments to the property influence wildfire spread. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package as well. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved, subject to the following condition: that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title to address the development of a 2-story boathouse within a floodplain and access. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mello. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here?
No, hi, Chair Edwards, me again.
There it is.
My name is Ryan Allen. Address hasn't changed since the previous 2 applications. I'm representing Claire Sellers with her variance application today. I do have another brief presentation. This existing drawing does have a lot of detail on it as well. I heard your message loud and clear about providing drawings that are a little bit more easy to read. We'll make sure that happens for future applications. 1085 Sagamo Boulevard is the subject property on Lake Rosso. Next slide, please. Similar to the last application, there's a proposal to remove the existing dwelling, dock, and boathouse and construct a new dwelling, dock, and boathouse. Next slide, please. There's a number of proposed variances, partly stemming from that there's 3 structures to be redeveloped: the dwelling, the dock, and the boathouse. And all of those structures are legal non-complying structures, with the exception of a dock addition. Effectively, no changes beyond the existing building footprints are permitted due to setbacks and coverage. One notable considerable improvement is that the existing lot coverage is 15.1%, and the reduction is down to 14.6%. There is a 24-foot setback of the dwelling. However, the existing dwelling setback is 19.5 feet. There's a reduction of dock width proposed. There's a 2-story boathouse that's proposed to be redeveloped, Any change to the existing boathouse configuration requires approval. One of those changes includes reducing the second-story sleeping cabin area from 830 square feet down to 756 square feet, as well as reducing the width of the boathouse from 63.9 feet to 55 feet. The existing boathouse is very tight to shore, and as a result of moving it offshore, there's some added length that is required. The first story length complies, but the second story length does not. And there's an existing dock that is currently encroaching over the side lot line with a 0-foot setback, and that setback is proposed to be increased, but not to the 15-foot minimum. If we go to the next slide, please, that shows the proposed site plan drawing. And you'll see the existing dwelling that's shown in red and the proposed in gray. The new dwelling is smaller in footprint than the existing dwelling. However, there's two small areas that are shown in yellow that are located outside the existing footprint and within the 25-foot setback. However, those portions do exceed the minimum setback of the existing cottage and the proposed cottage. The new deck that's proposed in front of the new cottage complies. There is a 2-foot increase setback of the dwelling from the shoreline. I mentioned that the existing dock that you see in red, the encroachment is proposed to be removed. There's a reduction of boathouse width, a reduction of dock width, a reduction of boathouse area, and a reduction of sleeping cabin area. And you can see the existing boathouse tight to the shoreline that's proposed to be rotated. Currently, you cannot walk behind the existing boathouse, and the shoreline is very steep and rocky. This provides access on either side of the boathouse. Next slide, please, have some photographs. You can see the existing boathouse on the left, largely a smaller boathouse in width, a smaller boathouse in area, and a smaller boathouse in second-story size. You can also see that the existing boathouse is very tight to the shoreline. That entire area is now filled in with snow. It's very hard on the structure. Giving it a bit of breathing room allows the structure to be safe and well maintained. It also allows, you can see in the photo below, there's even though it's a small setback, there's some fairly good vegetative buffering, allowing a slightly increased length allows those that vegetation to be retained. Next slide, please. I mentioned that there was a number of improvements happening on the property. There's a reduction of lot coverage, an increase shoreline setback of the dwelling, an encroachment over the lot line projections to be removed, a reduction of dock width, increased dock setback, increased boathouse setback, reduced boathouse width, reduced sleeping cabin area, reduced boathouse area, and an overall reduction of building area within 50 feet of the shoreline, and no tree removal is required within the footprint of the existing dwelling. Happy to answer any questions you have, and we would hope the committee would approve the application as recommended by staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. I was looking at your submission. It would be nice to have all of that in with your submission when you send it through so we could look at it. And that, like all the drawings, the pictures and that, but thank you for your presentation. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in support of this application? In opposition to this application? Questions from the members? Yes? No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Chair Edwards. I agree with the planning staff's recommendation of a site plan for the boathouse because we're now in a floodplain and we need the second story accessible from somewhere else. But I do have another question because this is really steep, this place on Royal Muskoka Island. And I'm just wondering why we aren't wanting a stormwater management study done on this, because I would guess that this is old enough that it was never done in the beginning. So I just would like staff's input on this. I mean, I have no problem okaying this, but that's the one question that I had. Looks like runoff would be big from there.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, certainly it was something that staff had considered, and we had a little bit of debate about whether we should impose a stormwater management or a stormwater management brief as a condition. Ultimately, I think it was felt that the redevelopment is largely, at least the land-based redevelopment is largely within the existing footprint of the existing dwelling. So I think we were quite cognizant of that and felt that for that reason, we didn't need to go to the extent of requiring a brief, but certainly if committee would feel more comfortable in including a requirement for a stormwater management brief as part of the site plan agreement, we could certainly amend the condition in order to do that. Thank you.
I had this exact same question relating to the comment on page 109. So I assumed that it was because one had been done in the past, and so it would be grandfathered in, but.
So would the committee like that included?
Perhaps we could again ask staff, what would be the benefits of that? Because it is a cost to the owner.
Yeah.
I do understand that. So what do you see as, well, I'm going to guess you didn't see any potential benefit, Mr. Sharp, because it wasn't recommended, but maybe you can help me out on that.
Through you, Chair, I think in part, one of the reasons that we didn't recommend it, in addition to the reason I noted, is because our site plan agreements include some general provisions with respect to stormwater management, not going to the extent of requiring a landowner to complete a brief, but acknowledging that they're responsible for managing stormwater on the site, and that may be done by, directing any roof leaders into well-vegetated areas on the property. If you were to impose a stormwater management brief, we would require it to be completed by a qualified professional. And the contents of the brief would focus largely on controlling the quality of the stormwater that would ultimately enter the lake. I think there's a recognition that the stormwater emanating from the proposed development would ultimately end up in the lake. I think our focus would be to control the quality and, in a sense, to ensure that it's not causing contamination or adverse water quality impacts by making sure that it's not laden with sediment. And there may be measures that a qualified professional would recommend in order to make that happen. So that's essentially the gist of it. The options are either to allow the general wording in our site plan agreements to prevail, or take it a step further and require a stormwater management brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm good with our general.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that minor variance application A 8724 sellers to construct a new two-story dwelling, dock, and two-story boathouse with a sleeping cabin on the upper level is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 4,540 square feet or 14.7% over the entire lot. 2, to permit a lot coverage of 4,540 square feet or 14.7% within 200 feet of the high water mark. 3, to permit a front yard setback of 24 feet at the closest point for a dwelling. 4, to permit a maximum cumulative dock width 110 feet. 5, to permit a two-story boathouse with a lot with less than 300 feet of lot frontage in accordance with the zoning provision applicable to the lot with 300 feet of lot frontage. 6, to permit a sleeping cabin with a maximum floor area of 756 square feet on the second story portion of the two-story boathouse. 7, to permit a second story portion of the two-story boathouse to be a maximum of 47 feet in length. 8, to permit a maximum cumulative single-story boathouse width of 55 feet. And 9, to permit a dock to be set back a minimum of 8 feet at the closest point from the westerly side lot line projection. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following condition. 1, that a site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title to address the development of a two-story boathouse within a floodplain and access. This approval shall remain in effect from 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you, committee. I promise that's my last application for the day.
Next application is A8824 KAPPUS, and that is Ms. Mello.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A8824 in the name of KAPPUS. The subject lands are known municipally as 1181 Hamills Point Road, Unit 5. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 157 of the agenda package. The applicants propose to demolish part of an existing dock and to construct a dock addition and a single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 25 days in advance of this meeting, and 5 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Manager of Public Works, stating no objection, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, stating no objection. Comments were also received from Douglas Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, stating no objection, as well as a calculated fire response time and recommending that the Fire Smart Homeowners Manual be consulted to understand how treatments to the property influence wildfire spread. Verbal comments were received from Edward Frakowiak confirming their support for the application, and a written letter was received from Janet and Barry Brackley confirming their support for the application. Committee members can view the letter by navigating to section 10 of the agenda. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package as well. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mello. Is the agent or owner present?
Yep. Good morning, Chair and Committee. My name is Jack Lorenz, 3 Armstrong Point Road, Port Curling, Ontario, P0B1J0. I'm the agent for this application. As stated by Emma, the purpose is to demolish an existing shed and portion of a non-conforming dock and reconstruct a 1-story boathouse with rooftop sun deck. The main reason for this location is to maintain space from the neighboring property towards the south, as well as the neighbor towards the north. The neighbor towards the north would not have adequate water depth even at the 30-foot setback, just based on the current water levels. So we've sort of reconfigured this boathouse to maintain the existing dock and existing sort of infrastructure and stairs and dock on the property to not disrupt the shoreline as much as possible, while trying to be as out of sight for as many people as possible. The neighbors in north would not be affected by it based on the view, as well as the neighboring property even further to the north. The view would not be towards the boathouse. The main view would be more to the right anyways. If you have any questions, then feel free to let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of this application? No one in opposition? Other questions from the members? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question with respect to the letter that was received by from the Brackleys. Is that, there's no indication of where they're located. Is that the neighbor to the immediate north? Or do we know?
So anyone be answer that?
And the reason I ask is just the comment on page 148 that talks about if comments are received from those neighbors that they should be addressed, but they hadn't been received by the time of writing of the report. So I'm just curious.
Through you, Chair, the letter that was received wasn't received from the neighbors to the north. We haven't received comments from the neighboring property to the north.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Just a curiosity question. The extension of the lot line puts the boathouse right at 0, and I understand that. That's according to our bylaws. Can I just, this is for my information, is the township looking at not including the extension of those lines into the water in the bylaws going forward? I don't think I explained
Yes,
that
Mr.
very well,
Sharp.
Mr. Sharp, but you probably understand what I'm saying.
You, Chair, yes, Member Bridgman is a member of our steering committee for the comprehensive zoning bylaw update, and this may be stemming from those ongoing discussions with respect to potential changes to the bylaw. But to my knowledge, there isn't any plans to change the way that side lot lines are projected over water. That's a cornerstone provisions in the bylaw. What you may be referring to is how shoreline structure width is measured, and those details haven't been worked out yet. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I read the resolution. Moved by Member Grogan Green, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that minor variance application A 8824 KAPPUS to construct a dock addition and a single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck is hereby approved, with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a dock addition to be set back 0 feet from the northerly side lot line projection, and 2, to permit a single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck to be 5 feet from the northerly side lot line projection. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
And the next application is A 8924 Port Carling Golf and Country Club. And that is Ms. Beamish.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 8924 in the name of Port Garland Golf and Country Club. The subject lands are known municipally as 146 Medora Street. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 173 of the agenda package. The applicants propose to construct an addition to an existing converted dwelling. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 26 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Manager of Operational Services, and Nick Schneider, the Township's Chief Building Official, both stating no objection to the application. Comments were received from staff at the District of Muskoka, stating no objection to the application and that a plumber or engineer should confirm if the existing service sizes are adequate to support the increase in unit, and if upgrades to the existing services are required, a connection permit must be obtained from the District of Muskoka. Comments were also received from Douglas Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, stating no objection to the application, as well as the calculated fire response time, and recommending that the Fire Smart Homeowner's Manual be consulted to understand how treatments to the property influence wildfire spread. The proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beamish. And is the applicant here? Yes. The
Good
agent.
morning, members of the committee. My name is Savas Varadas. I'm Muskoka, PO Box 5384, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H2K7. I'm here representing Port Carling Golf and Country Club as their agent on this matter. I don't really have much to add. I think staff's report covered off this application quite well. I do feel it's somewhat of a technicality that we're caught requiring this. The new official plan actually states that the setback for new proposed buildings or additions or development from wastewater treatment plants is 200 meters from the facilities themselves, but this current zoning bylaw measures that setback to be to the property line instead of the buildings themselves. The property that the facility sits on actually extends quite a bit further south than the facilities themselves and brings it somewhat artificially closer to the proposed development of the addition on the building that's on the subject land. So I think the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw are maintained by this proposal. And just to clarify, the addition itself that's being proposed to the building is compliant to the zoning bylaw in all the ways. So I feel this one is somewhat technical in nature, but I support the recommendations made by staff, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wish to speak in support? No one in opposition? Are there questions from the members? I have one. It says you can have like with second residence, a third residence. What about like all these bedrooms going on? What about 16 bedrooms going on here? And that how does the building code handle that as far as sprinklers or anything else like that? Just for my information. Yes, Mr. Sharp.
Through you, Chair, I'm not an expert in the Ontario building code. All I can say is that a building permit would be required for this proposal, and it would be reviewed at that time against the Ontario building code requirements.
No, it just looks like it's this is zone residential, is it? Or is it zone commercial?
It's zoned commercially. However, there was a bylaw approved previously that permitted a residential use as a main use, or a residential dwelling unit, a converted dwelling unit. So essentially what you have in front of you is permitted as of right. It's just the fact that the building is within the distance from the waste treatment center.
I realize that. I just wanted my information. Thank you. Yes, Member Bridgman.
Well, just out of curiosity, this looks like staff housing for the which is great that we're getting more staff housing, would be my comment.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with it. I just wondered because for safety and that, like all those bedrooms in there, if there was ever a fire and that, yes.
I believe Mr. Snyder may be in the waiting room if you wanted to bring him in and have a more definitive answer than I was able to provide.
Our own information, because there's other staff quarters coming up, and it'd be nice to know. Good morning, Mr. Snyder.
Good morning.
I just wondered with this application here, with the Port Carling Golf and Country Club, with all the bedrooms, what are the provisions in the building code or fire code? Like, do they have to be sprinklers, or just what is the regulations for that?
I'm not sure it's so easy as to say it shall be sprinklered or not. But I think, as I heard Mr. Sharp express, that will be reviewed at time of permit application, because of the nature, or not the nature, the number of sleeping rooms. There will be additional life safety requirements imposed imposed by the Ontario Building Code.
Okay, thank you very much for that information. Just for my own information, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that a minor variance application A 8924 Port Carling Golf and Country Club. We have to change that typo there. It's Golden Country Club. To construct an addition to a converted dwelling is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted: one, to permit an addition to a converted dwelling to be 660 feet from a property dwelling containing a sanitary sewage disposal site. This variance is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried.
Thank you.
Good morning, committee. I'm not hearing anything. I'm not sure if you're speaking to me.
Oh, yes, we are. Sorry. Yeah, yes, we are. That's why
Okay.
we're watching. Good
Thank
morning.
you. Good morning. I'm going to share my screen. Thank you, Chair Edwards, and good morning, members of committee. In November of 2023, Committee of Adjustment approved consent application B3723 ML in the name of Kirkwood Commercial Corporation. As the applicants of application B3723 were in the process of fulfilling their conditions of consent, it was discovered that condition 5 would necessitate that the applicants enter into a site plan agreement prior to finalizing the severance, and would also require plantings on a lot that is currently fully vegetated. Given that a small watercourse was shown on the submitted consent sketch, as shown on the screen, and observed by staff during their site visit, and also that the property fronts on to Muskoka Road 118 West, staff and committee felt that it was a good measure to implement, to subject the severed lot to site plan control to ensure an appropriate setback from the watercourse, implementation of sediment and erosion measures, and the retention of vegetation. Condition 5 of committee's notice of decision states that a satisfactory site plan agreement for the severed lot be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of vegetation and plantings to maintain the roadside buffer and setback from the creek. The applicant has informed staff that although they do plan to develop the severed lot at a future date, they do not intend to do so in the immediate future. They do, however, wish to finalize the severance in a timely manner and are continuing to work on fulfilling their other conditions of consent. They have requested an alternative condition requiring that the severed lot be made subject to site plan control. This would be implemented through a site plan control bylaw to be passed by council and would, after fulfillment of conditions, require that a site plan agreement be entered into and registered on title before a building permit is issued for a dwelling on the severed lot. This is in line with staff standards approach and is the preferred condition. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that provisional approval of consent application B3723ML Kirkwood Commercial Corporation be amended by replacing condition number 5 with the following: that the severed lot be made subject to site plan control. And further, that the revised condition is deemed to be minor and the date to fulfill conditions of consent remains as November 14th, 2025. Staff have no further comments at this time, but are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here to speak on this? Oh, okay. Other questions for the members? Well, that's what I asked. There was nobody. I just said, is there anyone to speak on this? So there was no one either. But I will ask anyone in support, anyone in opposition. Okay, thank you. Moved by member Brown, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that provisional approval of consent application B 3724 ML Kirkwood Commercial Corporation be amended by replacing condition 5 with the following. 5, that the severed lot be made subject to site plan control. And further, that the revised condition is deemed to be minor and the date to fulfill the condition of consent remains as November 14th, 2025. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll have some new business. And we'll have a verbal update.
Thank you, Chair. To the committee and to the public, this is just a really simple update to clarify how we're approaching correspondence for committee of adjustment going forward. What we're doing is harmonizing the approach to correspondence with the way that the general finance and council meetings collect and record correspondence. So anything that we receive going forward is going to be located in, for Committee of Adjustment, Section 10 of the agenda. That's going to be all correspondence that we receive from agencies as well as the public. And so as they come in, that will be updated onto the agenda, and anything last minute that for Committee of Adjustment that comes in the weekend before, we'll endeavor to put that also into the correspondence package by 8:15 in the morning, so it's available. But the planner will, as previous, just provide a bit of a verbal summary of any last minute correspondence that does come in. So I just want to make sure that committee was aware, as well as any members of the public that's watching this, that that's how we'll be dealing with correspondence going forward. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you, Director Huff. I went back in because I said 8:15. I haven't looked at this since whatever. And I see new on a couple of them that were already there, I think, actually. So are you, if you could highlight the ones that aren't by the staff, that would be really helpful. I don't know how hard that would be, but it would be very helpful.
Absolutely. Yep. Good suggestion. Thank you.
If I could make a suggestion, anything that comes after 8:15 in the morning, just bring it to here, because most people are driving here by that time and they're not using their laptops in the car. Or that's one thing. And
Sure.
any correspondence that comes in, the staff reports that you summarize everything is already in the agenda package. Could you say, I know we have to put them in for the public to read them, but we could have 2 sections. Letters of either support or objection, then staff reports, so we don't have to read through them again unless there's anything new, which then can go up into the new column.
Thank you, Chair. I think we can accommodate something to that effect. Yep.
Yeah, thank you
Okay.
very much, because that would be helpful, because I guess not being a real techie, I'm an Aztec, but I was hitting on, like we used to do, where it says hit here, and it wasn't bringing it in. But I found out once I got into the agenda, I could bring it up. But then this morning I hit that, and because I'm not on the internet, because I download my actual agendas, it won't come up. It just says you're not on the internet. So, but other than that, I think it's very good sending it out that way. But staff comments, if they're already in there, should be separated for the public so they can read them, but we've already read them. Thank you.